Hello, hello, and welcome to Making the Shift. I am back in my office today, and I do have a fun little visitor here. The little baby is 6 weeks now, and maybe a little more at this point. He is sleeping, but he is talking while he sleeps, so you will very likely be hearing him while we are here. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Jessie Ginsburg. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I own a clinic here in Los Angeles where we see several hundred kids a week. And if you are coming back for more, then welcome back. Today, we are talking about something that is such a hot topic, and it's something that is so misunderstood by so many people, which is why I wanted to bring it up. I posted on social media about chewing because something I hear so often is, what do I do? This kid is chewing. He's chewing through all of his clothes. He's chewing through his pencil. His shirt's come back ruined and ripped and soaked. And then what happens is a therapist says, oh, I know what to do. Let me give this kid a chewy tube. And then when the kid doesn't actually use the chewy tube and the chewing doesn't go away on the clothes and on all of the things, they're like, I don't understand what's going on here. I gave them a chewy tube. But here's the thing. Oftentimes, and I will not say always, and I will not say for everyone, but oftentimes chewing is actually the result of emotional dysregulation. And what happens is so often our emotional dysregulation can manifest in a physical way. For instance, we see the child chewing and we assume, okay, this is a sensory need. I need to give them sensory input. Okay. And it's not to say that sensory input doesn't help kids emotionally either, because of course, it can. But in the case of chewing, a lot of times what I see is there is something going on under the surface, some type of big emotional dysregulation, and the chewing is just not getting to the root of the problem. So today we are talking about how you can support a child's emotional dysregulation, because that was the number one question I got after I posted that video was, okay, thank you for helping me identify that. Now what? Now what do I do? So today I'm giving you 4 powerful strategies that you can use for emotional dysregulation and to support your kids that you are working with or your own children. All right. So we are going to go through 4 of those today. So here we go. Number 1, and I'm sorry to tell you this. I know you don't want to hear this, first of all. Okay. I'm sorry, but I got to say it. You have to regulate yourself first. Okay, so it doesn't matter if there's a child who's dysregulated and you're trying to comfort them in the moment, or if the dysregulation happened another time of day and you're trying to come back to them and talk to them about it later. You have to be regulated first. We need our kids to feel that calming presence from you. A dysregulated adult cannot regulate a dysregulated child. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it again. A dysregulated adult cannot regulate a dysregulated child. Okay, so it could be as simple as taking a couple breaths, and I hate saying that because it's so cliche. I'm sorry, but it could be a second, as much little as taking a couple breaths before addressing the child. Okay, and what helps me, because as you guys know or may not know, you'll know now. I have 5 boys at home, 8 and under. And there's a lot of moments where something happens and I feel dysregulated. And even if I take that second to realize I'm dysregulated, that helps me. So taking a second instead of like jumping up to get there as quick as possible, realizing I'm dysregulated, thinking about it for a second, and then going in. And sometimes it's as simple as that, giving yourself just a little bit of extra time. Okay, so you've got to do that. So another way that you can kind of start working on that and helping your child with that is you are modeling this for them. So the fact that you're now aware of your own regulation, you can start modeling that for them throughout the day. And then they're seeing you do that, which is going to be so great, right? That's why they call it a role model. You're being such a great role model for them. I have times with my kids, like where I might snap. I remember just not that long ago, I was talking to my 8-year-old and I kind of like snapped. I was really frustrated. And then I came back later and I said to him, I'm sorry, that wasn't about you. That was about me. I had a really stressful day and this was just like the last thing that filled my cup and made my cup overflow. So it's just talking about that. And it could be later after the fact, or it could be in the moment. You saying, okay, I'm feeling, and it doesn't have to be about them, but it could be anything. Like you wanted to go to a store, but the store is closing. You could just verbalize, okay, I'm feeling really frustrated. And then whatever you're going to do about it. Okay, I'm feeling really frustrated. I'm going to take a second. I'm going to take a breath. And I'm going to remind myself that I can go to the store tomorrow. Right? So you're just being a model for that child. All right, so let's get into some of the strategies that you can use with your kids. These could be in the moment, these could be things that come after. We'll talk a little bit about both. So, number one is co-regulation, and some of you guys probably know this, okay? You're probably familiar with self-regulation, which is a person regulating themselves. Co-regulation is when you regulate with another person. Co-regulation is a skill that kids do not just develop one day, and it's not something they're born with. It's something that they learn over time. And the way that they learn it is through experiencing it with an adult or whoever they're co-regulating with. It could be a kid, I guess. Okay? So you have to be that calm for them, coming in and helping them work through these tough emotions. Your goal is helping them feel safe and connected. Okay? That is number one, because if a child does not feel safe, nothing's going to happen from there. You need them to feel safe and connected. Co-regulation can look different ways. It could be, a hug. It could be telling them it's going to be okay and validating their emotions, extremely important here. It could be your physical presence. Okay, so I know that not all kids like to be hugged. Not all kids want to be touched. Sometimes you might notice that there's a child who is dysregulated, and when you come over and you try to give them a hug, it makes it worse. And I've heard that plenty from parents and other professionals. Okay, so it doesn't have to involve touch. It can, and for a lot of kids, touch is very soothing. And if it's not in a place where it would be appropriate to give a child a hug, it could be like putting your hand on their shoulder, putting your hand on their back to let them know that you're there for them, really letting them share your calm with you. And if it is a child who likes hugs, great. Some kids, you will see that they're so dysregulated, and the second you give them a hug, they just melt into you. And that's what they need. So co-regulation can look a lot of different ways. But the idea and point is that a lot of times just your presence can be enough for them. And as long as you're coming in, of course, regulated, so you're sharing that calm presence. Okay, so that is something you need to think about anytime a child is dysregulated, right? So we want to make sure we're regulated, because then we can do step 2, which is co-regulate. Bring them back into a regulated state in that moment. So here are some other things that you can start to do and implement into your routines in order to help. One is giving them sensory input that they need to stay regulated throughout the day. Okay, so that's looking at their day, thinking about times, when are times that they are struggling? Because if they are physically dysregulated, they're also going to be more likely to be emotionally dysregulated. You think of, I give this example sometimes, which is, I hate itchy sweaters. And if I were to put on an itchy sweater, this one time I was filming 2 full days of content, and I bought this itchy sweater because it was exactly the look I wanted. It was exactly the color I wanted, and I thought I could handle it. So I put on that itchy sweater, and I was so dysregulated from a sensory perspective that it made me emotionally dysregulated. I was so itchy and hot that it turned into frustration and overwhelm and me being so mad that that wasn't going to work out. Okay, so there is a lot of overlap between something that sensory may lead to emotional dysregulation. So if we can help our kids from a sensory perspective more throughout the day, that can help to ease emotional dysregulation as well. So you want to look at a child's day and think, what is this child doing throughout the day? What does their day look like? Where can I put in different sensory input that they need throughout the day? And of course, that also means trying to eliminate or avoid things that are dysregulating for them. And sometimes things can't be avoided, but you can try to accommodate them as best as possible. But you really want to look at their day and think, where do they need more input and what do they need? So for example, maybe they have a hard time staying seated and still in the classroom, and they would really benefit from movement breaks before class and an hour or so into class, and then at lunch, and then after school. And then maybe after school, they would benefit from some quiet time with their favorite stuffed animals. Okay, so you want to just kind of think about how their day looks and where can you put in these different regulating activities and where can you avoid dysregulating input as well. Okay, so the last thing that you can do, and this is more of a long-term end game, but something you definitely want to start as young as possible, is helping the child to understand their body. So working on their body awareness. And this is something that we call interoception, which is our ability to read the signals that are happening within our own body. Autistic children often have a very hard time doing this. But I will tell you why this is such a critically important skill. You probably do this so quickly that it doesn't even cross your mind that you're able to. But for example, yesterday I was driving, lots going on lately, new baby, four other kids, etc. You can imagine. And I started to feel my heart kind of pounding. And I felt like a little bit of tightening in my chest. Okay. And without even having to think about that, I could label that as I think I'm feeling anxious right now, or I'm feeling nervous about something. Okay. But a lot of us feel those body signals and we can just interpret them immediately. We know exactly what it is that we're feeling based on our body signals. Okay. But what if you had trouble interpreting those body signals? You might think that you may not be able to feel that. And then you would have trouble identifying and by feel that, I mean interpret that. And then you would not know what that feeling was that goes with those body signals. And then when someone asks you, like a teacher, are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling scared? Are you feeling mad? Those words aren't going to mean anything to you because you haven't experienced what that feels like within your body. Okay. So this is really tricky because we're going to need a full show on this, by the way. This is tricky because a lot of times we just label emotions for kids. And when kids are angry, we just say, it looks like you're angry right now. And we might model for them, I'm angry on my device. And I'm not saying we can't do that. It's just there's this huge middle step that we're often missing, which is being able to have those conversations and actually talk about what those emotions feel like within our body, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to make it meaningful for kids in the future. And this is probably not conversations that you want to have in the moment when they're dysregulated. These are things you can do in therapy, amazing therapy activities, okay? When you can sit down and you can talk about these different things. But this is really about, starting to do like body scans and what do you feel in your body. And if you notice, if you could tell by their body that they're feeling excited to be with you that day, that might be a good opportunity for you to talk about what they're feeling in their body. And that might mean that you draw an outline of a body on a piece of paper, and maybe you can point to different parts of their body where they're feeling like, oh, your hands are moving and that's something you do when you're really excited, and your shoulders are a little shaky, and you might feel warm inside, and you start to talk to them about what it is exactly that they're feeling within their body so that they can then in the future identify it as an emotion. And more on that will come later. Okay, so what we talked about today: regulate yourself, co-regulate, give sensory strategies and input throughout the day, and work toward helping a child with their body awareness. These four things are going to be so helpful for you in supporting a child's emotional regulation. If you want more on this, we've got more on these topics inside our NeuroAffirm Academy. You guys know we recently had a special that went on. We welcomed a lot of new members, which was so exciting. We have over 1,000 members in that community. If you want to be part of that, I highly suggest you join us in there. It is $97 a year. There's no reason why anyone shouldn't be in there. We wanted to make it accessible and affordable for everyone. Okay, but one training that we have in there that is really, really awesome, directly tied to what we talked about today, actually, several, but one of them I'm thinking of is what we call our daily regulation plan. So it actually walks you through how to look at a child's day, has a schedule for you to print out, and it walks you through how do I decide what sensory input a child needs throughout the day and how do I redesign their schedule. Okay, so that activity alone is worth your $97 to join. We also have really great trainings on there on getting to more of the root of the problem when kids are emotionally dysregulated and when you see big behaviors, trying to get to the root of that. So lots of good trainings in there too. So I'll drop the link below in case you want to join us in there. And welcome to those of you who joined us recently. I hope that today's episode was helpful for you. And if it was, we would love if you shared it with a friend. All right, that's it for now. We'll see you next